So I don't know if you caught this show yet on HBO, Breath of Fire, but it's breaking down the Kundalini yoga cult that happened. And as someone who has a degree, a minor in sociology, someone who has a fascination for cults, and someone who's been a practicing Kundalini yoga teacher for 10 years, let's just say I'm very excited about this. Thank God I was not part of the RAMA cult. I had Guru Jagat, this woman. I had her on the Sovereign Society podcast as like my 9th episode. She was not a kind person. Luckily, I did my teacher training in San Diego. That was a lot more of a blended version. But this is going to be a very, very interesting journey. What I will say is that, the practice of Kundalini yoga was huge in my healing journey. And I taught at festivals since 2014. I taught at Organ Eclipse. I would teach Kundalini yoga and sound bath healing and just have like a really safe space for people to do the work. Like I said, luckily, I didn't do my training at RAMA, Golden West. I didn't do it where there was like the cult energy. My teacher, she was a lot more grounded, I want to say. But something that is interesting to note is that I was at Satnam Fest in 2018 when I had my first seizure. Right now, we're in the Aquarian age where the truth is prevailing. And unfortunately, I think a lot of not so great people got a hold of this practice and took it for their advantage. And I remember one time I was in Encinitas, California, and I was at the studio I did my teacher training with, and my teachers invited her to come. And the way that she treated us, because we weren't part of the RAMA pack, my teachers were like, she's never welcomed back here. And I had her on my podcast, and she was had this like entitlement energy because I didn't, eat the dangling carrot of like seeing her as God and kissing her feet. And, if you want to listen to that episode, go for it. It's on my YouTube channel or on the podcast, Sovereign Society podcast. But I also want to share that while I haven't practiced Kundalini yoga because I had, a seizure and I've been doing my best to take care of my body, that practice really taught me a lot about leadership. And there's things that I learned that have helped me become a better leader today. And I can't ignore that. And so while this mini series, there's more episodes to come, I don't know how many, but let me just say it's been a huge part of my healing journey of reclaiming my power back. Because like I said, I had my first seizure while I was at Satnam Fest in Joshua Tree. And I think a lot of bad people, and that was the thing, got a hold of this practice that were using it to manipulate. When people are vulnerable, their Kundalini life force energy is open. And when you have that and you don't know how to protect your energy or have that boundary, people can be you're a prey and you can be easily influenced. And I think that's a lot of what happened that this documentary is about to really expose. So I'm really looking forward to see what's to come. But I also, like I said, I want to pay respect to the teachings because Kundalini yoga was a huge part of my healing journey. Of course, take what resonates, release the rest. But there's a lot of great things in this practice. So everyone's been asking me to share more as a Kundalini yoga teacher about what I thought of the Breath of Fire series. So I decided to combine episodes 2, 3, and 4 into one video because it's just been blowing my mind about what went down. Finding this practice, I was on this journey of seeking and finding myself. At the time, I just got struck by lightning. I was navigating through a difficult LSD trip. MDMA saved my life, and it was a medicine that I really couldn't get a hold of anymore, especially coming in to this practice, which is supposed to be connected to your life force energy, which is your sexual energy. I was coming in with heavy sexual trauma. I mean, not as, everyone to each their own, but for me, it was a lot, between a lot of shame around my sexuality, between trauma that I had from my uncle and my computer teacher when I was younger. There was a lot of healing that needed to be done in this space. And doing the breath work that Kundalini yoga brought me, I was chasing that high that I found in MDMA, that Kundalini yoga really brought me. And I was seeing how all this oxygen in my body and the breath work, how it was really helping me soar higher. And mind you, I have a degree in marketing and in sociology. So studying cults has been something I've been passionate about. And, a dream of mine is to still get my master's in theology. I've been a spiritual seeker my entire life. And while it was interesting going into Kundalini yoga to find myself, I got my spiritual name. This is what I was talking about in the second episode when talking about Guru Jagat got her name from Yogi Bhajan. But then later, she said that she never actually met Yogi Bhajan. That was very strange for me. But anywho, I got the spiritual name Shivinder Kaur, which is the lioness who transcends negativity and generates a new earth by embracing God's light. And that felt very resonant. It still feels very resonant to me as a sovereign leader and as the work that I do. The truth is, people in their 20s, especially when they're trying to find themselves, they may join cults or groups or whatever because they want to find a sense of belonging. I will say, when I went to Satnam Fest and whatnot, I could see those tendencies. I don't know if that's what led to me having my first seizure. I don't know if something hooked on to me from there. I don't know, but I had my first seizure while I was at Satnam Fest. Unfortunately, my auric field still had holes in it from that trauma, and that's where it hooked in. I didn't really share these other videos or from these other episodes because watching episode 2, I had a seizure the night before. I went to Kundalini yoga to really connect with sexual trauma and sexual repression that I had growing up Catholic, an Italian Catholic family. And so it was interesting for me to navigate through that, but to watch these episodes and to see the amount of sexual assault that happened with a lot of children that grew up in New Mexico that were sent to boarding schools in India. That left such a sour taste in my mouth because I went to Kundalini yoga to heal from sexual trauma and to reclaim my energy back. To hear that in 2022, that 3HO, the organization, the Kundalini organization, they started offering reparations to those who were sexually abused into these schools, into these youth programs. When you have over 600 people that have been supported with reparations since 2023, while that's great, it's not enough. And I think that we need to also create the space to hold that space for people to feel safe to share their stories if they want to, whatever healing they need that is healthy. Obviously, I support that. But it was just really hard to watch and hear the stories of children being sexually abused and just abused in general because of the cult following or whatever. That was really hard because, again, I went to Kundalini yoga to heal. Your Kundalini energy is your life force energy, your sexual energy. And to hear that they were preying on children, again, it's just not okay. It's very out of alignment with what the love is supposed to be. To watch them humanize Guru Jagat or Katie, it was sharing her upbringing and her challenges with addiction, overcoming sexual trauma. I think it's important that we recognize that these public figures that people look up to, they're also human. And to witness how she was abused, mentally abused and pushed to the edge from Hari Jivan, that broke my heart. How can it not? You saw this woman, she was not doing well. And so, my heart goes out to her soul and I send that blessing out to her and her family, and watching her mom, have a hard time realizing that she's gone. That was, was very humanizing. At the same time, I saw the dark side of her. And, they were talking about how she would shun people who wasn't fully in alignment or agreeing to everything that Yogi Bhajan said. I definitely was one of those people. I've always been one to question authority. And that's why I never saw myself really in the cult of I have to bow down and all hail Yogi Bhajan, all hail Guru Jagat. Not for me. My studio brought in teachings of Jesus as well. And I think that's why she wasn't really down with what we were doing. I'm a child of God. Jesus is my homeboy. This was more supplemental for me. And again, I feel really grateful that the studio where I got my teacher certification and where I was teaching in San Diego and Encinitas was not cultish at all. And so that's why there was a lot that was coming up for me, a lot that I don't know is part of like how God has been purging out of me shit that may have hooked onto me while I was in Kundalini yoga. I still don't know what's going on, but I did Kundalini yoga to clear the garbage of past trauma and shadow work and everything else that held me. I feel like part of the challenge for me was that, were they preying on my energy? Were they preying on my sexual energy? Where I still did not have a strong auric field and choosing to be celibate and also healing from sexual trauma. Were they tapping into my life force energy? Were they using and abusing my life force energy just like they did those kids? That's the real thing that came up for me and that's been coming up for me. Is that why I started having seizures at Satnam Fest while I was attending there? It was on the anniversary of that difficult LSD trip. I don't know. But it's very real that it has made me reflect a lot on how I've been on this journey to reclaim my life force energy from people who took my power. And to see how people like Hari Jivan, for instance, took Guru Jagat's power. He used and abused her. You saw the humanness of her in this series as well, that my heart goes for her. Clearly she was wounded. Just because we put people on a pedestal that we think that they're untouchable and that they're perfect. We're all here and we're all human and we're all learning and we're all healing. So I got into Kundalini yoga again because I was a seeker. I wanted to get closer to God. I wanted to get closer to myself. I knew there was more. And I could see from her and even hearing from her friends in this series that she too was a seeker. I have compassion for her. She was on the hunt to find more. And the thing is that to go from that seeker to a teacher is more than just, sharing what you know. It's about walking the talk and embodying what you know and unleashing that. That is your medicine, right? And so to see the teachers that are actually walking the talk, those are the teachers that are able to share through experience. And those are the ones that will be the true teachers of where we're headed, And so the biggest thing that I just want to share is that you are the guru you've been waiting for. I'm just sharing from my experience. You can take what resonates with you that I share and leave the rest, and anyone else you meet, okay? Take what resonates, release the rest. But do not have someone on a pedestal higher than you. It's not okay. That is discrediting who you are. That is not okay. Recognize that you are the guru you've been waiting for.